To me, it doesn't matter. So you get 1 hour and 7 minutes just off of that. And you only get up to hot water. If you add in dry, it automatically goes to normal, 2 hours and 55 minutes. Turbo wash, it does cut it down by about half if you use the turbo wash. So extra spin or extra rinse, pre-wash, you can add that in. 1x extra rinse, 119 pre-wash. So let's say we want to do turbo wash. We want 1 extra rinse, and we want a pre-wash. So it brings it down to 103 from 107. So that's not bad. You can use the steam. Steam function will take it up. You can add that in and to bring it back down some. And then of course you're dry. So let's do Sanitary now. Let's see what it gives us for the Sanitary setting. There we are on Sanitary. Here's the settings it gives us: extra hot, high, and normal. That's what it gives us. Let's see what time it gives. And again, right now this is just the times that it's giving is based on a really small load from what I do. And it all estimates the time according to your settings that you end up selecting. The dry time is always going to end up adding more time on. Always. And then the size of the load you have in there is going to determine the time. So without changing any of the preset settings that it gives us, we get 1 hour and 55 minutes. And that's on Sanitary. That's a small load that I have. Now, when I use this setting, I have, of course, a lot more clothes than that in there. But I'll use the turbo wash, the fresh care, which is what turns on when, see, it says fresh care. It also has anything that has a star, you can end up setting or turning on. These are extra features, and it tells you stuff with the star, press and hold for 3 seconds for extra function. I like using the Fresh Care, which is keeps my clothes tossed after a dry. I use that one. I do use the Turbo Wash. Extra rinses I don't use, and I don't really use a pre-wash unless my stuff's really dirty. I do use the High. This I normally use on a medium, I think. I think that's where I have my stuff anyway. And then it's either normal or more. But if we really want to see what my settings are, there we go. My programmed settings, which is for Sanitary, so I end up using in between the heavy and normal, like a medium heavy maybe is what that one would be called, maybe a medium heavy, and more. And then you see that's flashing. That's because I like using the Fresh Care. Now let's see, just off of these settings, let's see what we get. We're going to turn the drum back on, the drum light. Gimme. Okay, so we paused it, and that's what we're getting is 3 hours and 43 minutes. Again, this is a small load. Normally, the time that I'll end up seeing on here, when I have a full load and stuff, is like 4.5 hours at the most, is normally what I see. But that's with a full load. And that's on the Sanitary. Let's see about Allergenic, or Allergen. Okay, so it gives us just a spin speed. It don't give us a wash. It's going to be using steam is what it's going to use. So let me pause it for a minute and I'll be back. Just give me a minute. Okay, so as we see on Allergen, it only gives us the steam only. The spin speed we can change. Of course, starts out on high. Soil, it doesn't let us do anything, and dry, it'll let us add that in. So it starts out at high. Let's see what it gives us for a time on a small load. Let's see what Allergen ends up doing. So it's going to weigh the clothes again. So it's going to give us an hour and 39 minutes with the high. And it automatically does steam. It won't let you take that off when you're doing Allergen. Now turbo, we can add that on. It takes off a little bit of time. About 14 minutes roughly is what it takes off. You can add in an extra rinse, and it adds back 10 minutes with extra rinse. Pre-wash, you cannot add a pre-wash. Dry, you can add dry. It takes that up there to low temp, damp, or normal, more, or you're timed. So an hour and 25 minutes. Or just say about 3.5 hours. And that's on Allergen. So that's basically your settings and everything, and your times that you can be looking at roughly. Now the only one we're gonna show, we're gonna throw the blanket in and show this one, but when you're on this setting, you cannot add the dry. So I'll show you what I do when I wash my blanket.